Most alpines are really easy to look after once they're established and have their roots firmly in the ground. But here are a few tips to help keep them flourishing and at their peak. One of the most important considerations when growing alpines is the planting of them and the establishing of the plants. This is a gorgeous little yellow-flowered Erysimum. So this is in a very open, sunny location, which is ideal for this plant, and somewhere where drainage is very, very good. It also is a very well ventilated area. Wind is freely flowing through to encourage the plant to stay quite sturdy and compact and to limit the chances of fungal leaf infections. In these small crevices, we have a very loamy, gritty, sandy mix. So that provides a really, really free draining mix, and it's also not an overly nutritious soil mix as well. It keeps them lean and mean and mimics what they would like in a wild setting. With the nature of alpines being quite delicate, mat forming, low to the ground, some weeds can be very undesirable as they can compete for light, space and moisture. The gritty soil makes it really, really easy to pull weeds out, but for some tasks, you'll need a pair of these. So here we have a gorgeous cushion-forming saxifrage with some moss growing through it. And as it's in such a shady location, it's actually entering competition with moss. As the moss grows faster than the saxifrage, we will actually need to weed the moss out from the saxifrage clump. Otherwise it will start to smother it and it will eventually kill it. So by using the tweezers, you can gently pull the moss out from the cushion without damaging the saxifrage. When weeding moss out of alpine cushion plants, patience is definitely a virtue. Deadheading is also a very important consideration when growing alpines in small bulbs, such as this Muscari. Removing the faded flower heads encourages energy to go back into the bulb. So I'm using a pair of snips for this deadheading task, but you can equally use your finger and thumb to just gently break the flowering stems. If you wish to collect the seeds, then you don't need to deadhead. But for some plants, cutting faded flower stems and shoots is vital to prevent dieback. Deadheading a cushion plant such as this saxifrage here is very, very important because it prevents these stems from falling back onto the top of the cushion, which can cause dieback, such as this cushion here, which has experienced quite extensive dieback in the center of the plant. And we're going to need to prune this out to prevent the dieback from spreading. So by using a pair of snips, or you can use secateurs, you want to get relatively deep within the center of the plant. You want to take care not to go too close to the living parts because you may inadvertently prune these out. So you want to just focus on the dead portions. By removing all of this material, this is preventing it from sitting in the center of the plant and causing neighboring stems to die back. So once you have reached a point where you start to reveal living shoots around the perimeter of the dieback that you've removed, you can select a piece of rock or aggregate to place within the hole. It will encourage the plant to grow over the rock and it will continue to live a long and prosperous life. So another consideration when growing alpines is mulching. So this is not mulching with organic matter, but it's mulching with a fine grit or stone mulch. By having a mulch layer underneath an alpine plant, prevents it from being in direct contact with moist or damp ground, as this can encourage the plant to rot. So the action of mulching is by gently lifting the plant, spread the grit underneath and delicately position back, which then allows the plant to rest firmly on that grit layer. Not all alpines are as easy to lift, so in this instance, spread the mulch as close as you can to the center of the plant. So one of the fundamental parts of caring for your alpine plants is watering and feeding. So plants such as this true alpine here, which is a gypsophila cushion, will need very little feed throughout the course of its life. So a plant such as this, which is a succulent plant. It's called Heraroa, and this again doesn't require much nutrition but has the ability to survive droughts. So will need very, very little water and also doesn't require much feeding. Whereas in complete contrast, we have this peony, which is a lot thirstier and a lot hungrier. So its demands on both water and fertilizer are higher. So this will benefit from a seaweed-based feed at the beginning of the year as it starts to come into growth to really encourage vigorous, healthy shoots and a good flowering performance. The plant will also require a lot more water as well. So the best way to judge whether this plant needs watering as it is grown in a pot is to lift the container to feel the weight. So you can see whether you feel as though it needs water. You can also gently tunnel your finger into the soil and feel if it feels damp. In its active growing season, which is the spring, I would be watering this certainly every week. So the average winter in the UK is usually quite mild and very, very wet, which is not favourable conditions to grow alpine plants. And it's that really damp, cold conditions which is very prevalent in our UK winters, which causes these plants to deteriorate and even perish. So having this physical rain barrier will prevent this. If you don't have a structure like this in your garden, you can move your pots or your containers up against a wall or into an unheated, cool greenhouse to protect them from the worst of the winter weather. Plants in pots will benefit from having their growing media refreshed every 1 to 2 years. So repotting in itself is actually a really, really easy activity. Selecting this plant here, you can clearly see it's showing signs of needing repotting. It has roots coming out the base of the container. So you're looking for a pot that is approximately 2 fingers width wider at the rim and the soil surface level of the pot. So this one here is clearly not big enough. Choosing this slightly larger pot, you can see my 2 fingers comfortably fit between the rims, and this is the pot size that I would select for a plant such as this. So let's prepare our pot. So first of all, this stone will slightly cover the drainage hole, which will prevent compost from falling through the drainage hole and just allow water to pass. You can also use a piece of fabric or other broken terracotta pots to serve the same purpose. The growing media we're going to use for this repotting is a John Innes No. 2 with added grit. And this is a very, very free draining mix, which is ideal for growing alpine plants in pots. And you can buy ready-made alpine mixes from garden centres, which will serve just the same purpose. So this plant is in a smaller container than the one we're going to be repotting it up into. So I'm just going to hover it within the pot to the depth that we would like it at. So now that I know how much soil I'm going to need, I'm just going to get a couple of handfuls, sprinkle it into the base of the pot, give it a gentle firm down. And now, as you can see, the plant is settled at the right depth. So removing plants from a plastic pot is very, very simple. You just simply squeeze the side of the pot and the plants just come loose with a gentle pull. And it's worth noting that we reuse all of these pots. So you would then gently tease the root system, and then I would place into its new container and fill around with fresh compost. However, if you have a plant such as this little Primula, which is grown in a terracotta pot, if you were to do the same thing, you would risk really damaging the root system, as roots within a terracotta pot actually slightly adhere to the inner surfaces of the pot. So I will actually gently break this pot just to ensure I don't actually damage the root system. So this is only really an issue when you have a young, vigorous plant such as this, which is growing in a very, very small container. So we have the plant out of its pot now, and as you can see, the root system is very, very advanced, and it has begun to spiral at the base of the pot. So again, just gently going to tease the roots out, just to enable the plant to root into the new container with a lot more ease. So even though it looks quite extreme, I'm really glad that I did break the pot, because the root system has remained completely intact. So here a little bit of recycled fabric has been used. Gently peel this away so it doesn't get buried in the new pot. So just going to, again, hover the plant at the height we would like. And as you can see, I need a little bit more compost. So I'll just start to slowly backfill. And you can see that is nicely at the right height. And there is space for a top dressing to be added once we've added the compost in, and the top dressing will make it look nice and also aid drainage. Just adding more compost around the root system of the plant and just gently firming in as you go, just ensuring that all the roots are covered. And once you're happy, it's always good to give it a slight little tap down just to settle the growing media within the pot. Then we're going to add some grit, which will be the top dressing around the plant. This is gently lifting the plant up just to tuck the grit right around the base of the plant. So now that we've finished potting, we're going to go and give this a drink. Because this plant here, which is a Primula, has slightly furry, a velvety leaf texture, it would not be very happy with being watered from above. A droplet might sit on the leaf for a long time and cause it potentially to rot or for a fungal leaf infection to happen. So I'm going to simply place this into this tray of water, and I'll leave that to soak up from the bottom through the drainage hole, and eventually you'll know when it's had a good drink when the grit on the surface starts to show a little bit of wetness. So when repotting your alpines, it's the perfect chance to split, divide, and even propagate from them. So in the next episode, we'll be going into this in more detail.